Monitor the chat.
All right, let's kick this thing off. So happy Friday, everybody. And Kelly Ann Zuccarelli is going to be our fabulous moderator from Wells Fargo Mortgage again. So Kelly, I'm going to kick it off to you to introduce our panel and get us started.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Kimberly, and welcome to the call, everyone. Again, we are going to make sure that we try to keep this as positive as possible. We know there's a lot going on around us, but, you know, let's feed off of each other some positivity and find ways to continue to do our business and keep moving forward. As Kimberly said, I am your moderator, Kelly Ann Zuccarelli, Senior Vice President and National Builder Condo Manager at Wells Fargo Home Mortgage. And I'm joined by your hosts, starting with Carol Morgan, Founder and President of Denim Marketing, a 21-year woman-owned agency specializing in strategic marketing, media relations, blogging, social media, promotions, advertising, and much more. I also have with us on the phone, oh, goodness. Sorry, kids. I got a little twisted up there because mine was backwards. Leah Fellows, founder of Blue Gypsy Inc., online sales counselor trainer. And then finally, Kimberly Mackey, who is a national sales management consultant for the home building industry and founder of New Home Solutions Consulting. So welcome, everyone. You are surrounded by 4 women. Not sure how y'all feel about that. Lots of attitude in this little group of 4. So let's start. Would you go to the next slide for me, please? I'd like to ask each of you, Carol, Leah, and Kimberly, and I'll start with you, Carol, just to give me a short statement about how you see this shift impacting the industry from your perspective.
Yeah, well, it's definitely impacting us. I think we as an industry are innovating and really learning to take advantage of technology such as virtual tours, chatbots, more video. Technology is what's going to help us make sales now, and we are going to be a lot sharper and a lot smarter and a lot more targeted with technology as we come out of this crisis, and I think it's going to help us just be way stronger in the future.
Thanks, Carol. Leah, your thoughts?
Well, I think for so many, while this seems like a new normal, in the online sales counselor world, it really is the direction we've been going in for almost 2 decades, working from home, helping people virtually. And I think, you know, for a long time, a lot of builders have been on the fence to see if this is a fad. But I think when we come out of this, we're going to see it even stronger, where we continue all of this virtual assistance and virtual help. And so home sales is just moving in the same direction that the car sales industry has been moving in for a while, where you can completely create, pick, choose, and almost have your car delivered to your door now without ever having to go out. But it's not going to take out the personal touch. There's still going to have to be people involved in this. So I think that, you know, this shift is important, but in my realm of things in online, it's been going that direction for a long time. So.
Thanks, Leah. Kimberly, final thoughts.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Leah. And I think that we can learn if we will just take the moment and really think about, okay, yeah, now that we're doing these things, what works better? Where are we seeing some efficiencies? And let's take those as we shift out of this and keep those as part of our new normal. But if we don't take the time to really think about it and we just go back to the way things were, then, you know, we won't have learned the lessons. And I think that, you know, the universe has given us an opportunity now, kind of slapped us in the face and said, hey, innovate, get real, you know. So we have to do that. We can't just go through and put a Band-Aid on it for right now. I think we need to step it up. We obviously have to react very quickly, but let's look at, okay, now what is working better? And maybe we'll be able to take those moving forward, make ourselves a little leaner, meaner, and not in a bad way, but you know, that we're able to shift and ebb and flow with it. Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you. Thank you. So, You know, we've been sharing best practices for the last couple of weeks on this call, and the three of you are very connected to your peers across the country. And so what I'd like to ask each of you is share a best practice. Perhaps it's not something you're doing personally, but something you're hearing about out in the industry that you thought was intriguing. So whether it comes from you or something you're hearing, would you please share a best practice? And I'm going to start with you, Kimberly. We'll go backward this time.
Okay, great. You know, one of the things that I've seen is that people are getting more proactive with expectation sharing, and I know we're going to get into that a little bit more when we get into some other slides here. But I think that's a lesson. That's a valuable lesson that we can learn, to set the expectation to the customer, to the public, to say, hey, this is what's going to happen. This is how it's going to happen. And this is why. This is what the benefit is for you. So we have to craft that messaging and think about that messaging all the way through, not only in our marketing efforts, but in our internal efforts and our customer experience efforts too. And I'm seeing a lot more of that and a lot more thoughtfulness go into that, because people are so worried that they might offend somebody. For instance, I had a salesperson this week who had some people come in and they were touching everything. They learned a lesson because they didn't screen them properly before they came in. We've now shifted the entire practice for that entire builder on how we're pre-screening and doing all of these things. So it caused that builder to go, wait a minute, no, that we don't want this to happen. This is dangerous. So we shouldn't have to get to the point where something's dangerous before we make a shift.
Good comments there. Leah.
So for me, I think that I'm seeing a lot of best practices is that people are slowing down and starting to look at their process, and they're starting to set the foundation for, like Kimberly just said, if you don't pre-decide what we're going to do when someone actually comes in for that in-person tour, you can get off kilter. So creating a process, whether it's a follow-up process or even a process for your actual showings, that's going to be important and really important to start putting into place.
Perfect. And Carol, could you finish up the best practice?
Absolutely. I think what I'm encouraged by is a lot of builders and a lot of our other clients that are in this home building space really sticking to what they've already been doing as it relates to marketing. You know, not giving it up, not jumping ship, you know, maybe rearranging things some, but really sticking with the basics, you know, making sure their website's where it needs to be and updating that, you know, continuing their social media messaging, continuing media relations if they've got that going, you know, really focusing on everything they're doing and making sure it's the best it can be, and not going off the deep end and getting too worried. So that's got me very, very encouraged that everyone's just, you know, thinking about it and working things through, and maybe taking a little bit of a closer look at not just their budget, but the effects of their marketing, you know, diving into those Google Analytics and seeing what's working, what's not working, and making adjustments from there.
Carol, I'd like to stick with you on this next question. How can you keep your branding and messaging on point while still encouraging interaction on your social channels?
That's a great question. The biggest thing I would say is just review your messaging, and don't be sucked into the rabbit hole with coronavirus messaging. There is so much of that out there. I was on a client call this morning, and we were trying to determine if the client should put messaging out there or send another email, or, you know, do something, anything related to coronavirus. And you know, this is a small builder in the South, and you know, his response was, you know, I'm still building, you know, things are taking longer because we're only having one crew at a time on site, but I don't want another coronavirus message out there. We get it. He goes, I open my email and that's all that's in there. So, you know, be careful of that, because people are just starting to delete them. They, you know, they get it that we all have best practices and safe practices. So we need to be focused on our branding and our messaging with maybe without going overboard on coronavirus. So focus on your unique selling proposition. Keep sharing those messages, whatever that is, whether it's affordable or attainable, maybe you're green focused or technology focused, home automation, your quality, family owned, just focus, 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 focus. And then also remember that that brand goes so much farther than what they see on your website and social media. It's everything from how those customers are greeted over the phone, how the suppliers are treated, how your crew looks and acts on the job site. It's literally everything related to your company. And then beyond your brand, talk about interest rates, virtual tours, share photos of home plans. If you have buyers that are willing to go and take a picture of themselves with their new home they just closed on, get those and share those on social. Consider maybe a series on your team. Maybe you're going to write a day in the life of, or some sort of fun human interest stories. People are really hungry for good messaging right now. So figure out what works within your brand and share some positive news too.
So, and Carol, not to interrupt on that, but we have a really good question from our friend Kevin Weitzel, who says, not intending to elicit a plug, but for small builders that don't have much of a marketing staff, if at all, what can they or we do to get something in place sooner rather than later? And who can they reach out to for help?
That is a great question. It's actually interesting. We have had, 2 or 3 builders in this downturn reach out to us for help and say, hey, I know that we're going to need this after this all turns around, and we really need it now so that we're better positioned. I mean, there's lots and lots of industry experts and people who can help. So if you want to get your new website built, now's a great time to do it. If you're looking to ramp up your social media, it's a fantastic time to do it. If you don't have an online sales counselor, there's never been a better time to add one of those, or add, a chat bot or a live chat to your website. If you're out there and you're wondering what should you be doing, reach out to one of the 4 of us. We're happy to guide you and steer you and introduce you to other experts and to help you get started so that you're ready for when this turns around. Kevin, who's with Outhouse, is happy to help you get some virtual tours launched. And I will say this, if you don't have virtual tours and you have homes that you could do virtual tours of, even if you're a custom builder and everything you build is unique, you could still do a virtual tour or 2. And that's going to help you so much more in the future. Anyone else want to chime in?
So I would just like to add to that, focus on what you can do. I think that's what people don't want to feel stuck, and they do feel stuck right now. They feel like they're stuck in their home. They're stuck behind their mask if they're being told to wear masks. They're stuck. And I think the message that we have to get out there is there's still stuff we can do. And here's what we can do. Like Carol mentioned, that long list of things, regardless of what size builder you are, there are things you can still do to help a buyer, and you just need to let them know that you're still here and how they can reach you. And once they reach you, if you don't have all these tools, at least interact with them and talk to them so that you can say, okay, well, I can do this for you. I can do that for you. And then you follow up. It doesn't have to be a big fancy thing. It can be as simple as, hey, you do a FaceTime chat, or you do a Zoom meeting, or Skype, or whatever tool you have out there. So just let people know I'm here and I can do these things.
Yeah.
Hey, Kimberly, Carol, it's Kelly. I just wanted to chime in for a second. I come from a different perspective than all of you, being in the mortgage banking world. There's something else that builders and salespeople can do, and that's reach out to your prior customers. They're your greatest referral source, as you all know, and some of them may be struggling right now and uncertain of what to do. And, the media has, this is just my personal opinion, I'm not speaking on behalf of Wells Fargo, but the media has kind of misled the consumer when it comes to continuing to make payments. Encourage your former buyers that may be having a challenge right now to reach out proactively to their auto lender, to their landlord, to their mortgage company. If they need help, it has to be proactive. And I think all of you that are in sales or that build, it's really great to connect with your your former buyers, because again, they are your referral source, and it'll go a long way if you step up and try to guide them to do the right thing.
Oh, that's a really good point.
Oh,
Thank
Yeah,
you, Kelly.
I agree. We
Yeah.
have another question if we want to. Do you want to take a second now to answer it?
Sure.
That's okay. This is from Eric Cofield. Hey, Eric, thanks for joining us.
Hey,
And
Eric.
he asks, are consumers and builders willing to hold self-guided tours of the model with coded locks like on an Airbnb, self-check-in locations, etc.? Yes, they're definitely doing a ton of this. We're seeing InterNow especially just go gangbusters in this market. I think she's sending out door locks as fast as she can get them in and ship them out, because lots and lots of consumers want to take a tour by themselves without someone else in the home with them, and then to know that the home's cleaned after they're there. Leah or Kimberly, you want to add anything? Are you seeing other companies really being used for this, or other solutions?
No, I'm seeing a lot of that. And I think the key there is to set the expectation of what happens in between those showings to make people feel safe, and make sure that you have your system in place to follow up. You don't want to necessarily go in if somebody wants to be in that home by themselves, and InterNow is a great screening mechanism to do that. If they're doing that for you, then you don't necessarily want to be all stalky and be there, but let people know after you leave, we are going to come through the home, and we are going to go ahead and get this home sanitized for the next guest that wants to see the home, because we're getting a lot of interest, which of course just adds to the sense of urgency that people need to feel right now.
And just to add to that, things like Enter Now, looking at something that's really builder industry specific versus like something like a Airbnb lock or something like that, it really is gauged to accumulate data and to get information, get contact information. You don't want people randomly walking through your house with door codes. Not only is it not safe, right, but you're not getting any of their information. And I mean, I know from being an Airbnb user myself, I've been given door codes, but that doesn't give them any information. And if the system isn't set up as sophisticatedly as something like Enter Now, where they're getting all that information, then you're opening yourself up for possible, damage, and B, you're not gaining those leads. And so you can then have a whole follow-up process that goes along with your Enter Now or your digital lock leads, that you can follow up with them. And I've even had some of my online sales counselors ask, do we do the same kind of follow-up, or should we contact them while they're in the house? It doesn't hurt to call them while they're in the house and say, how are things going? How does it look? So don't feel like you're stalking them. I mean, they should know that they're there.
Yeah, and do you have any questions? But I would second that. If anybody didn't hear how well she said that, I'm just going to say it just point blank in your face. If you've got those lock codes out there right now, the lock box, not the super locks, but just the lock box that has the code on it, and you're giving that code out to everybody, that is not safe. That is not COVID friendly, and you need to eliminate those right now, because you have no way of knowing who's in that home, what they've touched, what's happened, it's just a bad practice. So get rid of those right now, because they are not safe. So Kelly, should we go ahead and move on? I see we do have some more chats and questions coming in.
Yeah, I think we can address some of the other questions further down too. So.
Yeah. So let's move on to the next slide. And Carol, I'm going to throw this question to you. What are some ideas to help rebuild and assist inside of our communities during this crisis?
Well, I know we have lots of ideas for this, but I've got a home builder that did a really, really cool thing this week. They were able to get 10,500 medical masks and N95 masks, and they donated them to 2 local hospitals here in Atlanta. And 4 TV stations and multiple news stations covered it because we did PR on it. So, keep that in mind. Public relations is something that's often the first thing to go and the last thing to come back during these downturns, but it's a great way to get your name out. I mean, they had multiple newspapers, multiple TV stations, and it shows that their, corporation is socially responsible. And we've got I think all consumers care about that. It's very important to them. So now is the perfect time to use media relations. Do good and share it. I also have a cool story about a developer client who isn't developing much right now because of this downturn. They were in the early stage of a community, so they just put it on hold. But they have ordered 3 commercial sewing machines and are going to gear up mask production because they have a background in manufacturing. So they're hoping to help solve the mask crisis in the North and Midwest with these 3 machines that can produce. She gave me the stats, and it's a female entrepreneur. So hearing some really cool things coming out of this. I think Leah's next with some answers to this.
Yeah, so I think it's a really great time, again, because on the online sales counselor side of things, but anywhere, we're always trying to find new ways to touch our database. And I think it's important if you want to partner with other great organizations in the community that are doing things for maybe, the medical community or various other areas impacted for the virus. If you partner with them, you can put out a message and let them know that you're taking up a collection, that you're donating to this. Do your homeowners want to know how to contribute and be a part of that? And another great idea too is you could put together a list of all the restaurants in your area around your neighborhoods that are providing takeout and providing, delivery, and really put that out to your database, both your homeowners that live in that neighborhood already. It's kind of like what Kelly was doing, supporting those people that already live in the neighborhood, and also the people that are thinking of coming to the neighborhood and checking it out so that they can help support those small businesses that are really struggling right now. So I think it's important to really kind of keep doing things in a positive way, and then putting it out there and making sure that you utilize that as a way to touch your database.
So Carol, there is a comment in the chat room from Scott Cerrone that says, what did they do to find donors for masks?
Well, it wasn't, so the developer bought them from China. He's actually native to China, and he had sources that he could buy the masks and have them shipped here, which I find very interesting because a lot of our hospitals don't have those same sources. So I think it was great that he did that to help the local hospitals out, and hopefully he can help them with a better connection as well so that they can order direct. I do know that there's a huge push from NHB and some of the local HBAs as well for construction sites to donate their N95 masks and other masks to the hospitals. And I see that happening nationwide too, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is excellent. Kimberly, were you about to say something? I apologize.
Oh, I was going to chime in that I loved Leah's idea and really helping to support those small businesses in the community as much as we possibly can and to promote them. But one of the challenges that I'm trying to put out there, and I've thrown this out to my builders, and I think I'm going to throw this out to NAHB at large and ask people to get involved, and I'm calling it #building communities. I don't care if that's really what we use or not. I just thought that was kind of cool. But do a contactless, that's a tough word to say, but a contactless food drive. And this is a way to still drive some traffic safely into your communities and into your model centers without people actually having to come in. So what you would do is simply just set up a bin outside. If it's covered, that would be great. But make it where it's accessible, where people can kind of drive by in their car if they don't feel comfortable getting out. And they could drop off some non-perishable food. You're going to need to have somebody on site kind of monitoring this, for theft, because we don't want it to get stolen. I mean, heaven forbid somebody throws some toilet paper in there. I mean, think about that. That would be gone in a heartbeat. We know our porta potties are getting robbed with the toilet paper. But make sure so somebody's there to look at it, but also for food safety. We don't want food sitting out baking in the sun or anything too long. And just have people drop something off. You can then further this by putting a sandwich sign out, one of the V-shaped sandwich signs that says, thank you for donating to, and then put whatever the charity is that you're supporting, whether it's Salvation Army, feedingtampabay.org, or, and there's feeding, Milwaukee.org, feedinghouston.org, there's all of those. And Metropolitan Ministries, all these different charities that are fabulous. We know people are hurting. People have lost their jobs. Getting food is a real issue. And this is a way that we can give back to the community But we can also let people know that we're still here. So on that same sign, you know, food drive for benefiting whatever it is, and we're still here for you for information on how we can help you call and put the phone number. And imagine if every builder across the country started doing this at every model center, how much food we could collect and what a huge impact we could have within our communities. And then we will, of course, all need a lot of PR that Carol could provide for us to get the word out. So I think that's something that really struck me with, you know, how people that do live paycheck to paycheck are really struggling right now in a way we can help our community. The panic buying also depleted the pantries. I saw a lot of stories about that on the news where the pantries can no longer, these charities can no longer buy because their suppliers were trying to shift everything to the grocery stores to try to, you know, to stop the panic buying and keep the shelves stocked. So again, I just think it's a great thing we could do.
Yeah, and I would also say that sometimes just a simple thank you, you know, a post on your social media page thanking the frontline medical workers. They are really hurting. And I don't know if any of you watch Good Morning America, but I actually had to turn it off this morning because they were talking about just how devastating this is to those frontline healthcare workers. So maybe a thank you sign in front of your community. Nothing special, but just something that you don't know who's driving by, nurse, doctor, family member of one of them. They see a sign from you saying, thank you, healthcare workers, might make a difference. So let's go to the next slide. I'm just going to throw this one out there and one of you pick this up. How do you manage the virtual appointment setting process while avoiding discrimination and not turning off potential prospects?
So I can start that one out for us. Absolutely. So one of the things that I have done this week is actually reach out to a lot of our builders. And I reached out to a lot of the larger builders to ask them what they were doing so that I could advise some of my smaller builders. So there is a good balance here. And regardless of what size you are, these are some things that we definitely need to keep in mind. Just because we are having a global pandemic does not mean that we get to violate any fair housing. So I encourage you to visit HUD.gov and refamiliarize yourself with everything that goes with the fair housing rules. So again, that's HUD.gov. And if you don't have those signs already posted in your model center, now would be a really good time to order those posters and get those put up. But make sure that whatever you're doing is consistent. It's consistent across the board, and that you are you're in alignment with whatever is going on in your state, your municipality, your county. We know that rules vary widely. Some of us are still considered essential business. We can still be there and conduct business face to face. Others of us have shut down as far as anything on site and are not allowed to do face to face. So, you know, be sure that you're staying current on whatever the provisions are in your area, whatever the executive orders are in your area, so that you are not in violation of those. But screening questions that you can ask, it is extraordinary times right now. So we can actually ask, you know, is anyone in your party ill? Is anyone running a fever? If you're screening to say that maybe they want to have that face-to-face appointment, have you been in close contact with someone who is? And if so, then we can still help you, but we probably should safely do that from a distance and do a virtual appointment. We can also, you know, ask questions about the timing of what they're needing to do. And I think that's really important, that we understand, you know, how soon do they need a home? And, you know, are they at a point where we do physically need to get together face to face? Some of these things, even if they're urgently ready to buy a home or start the building process right now because they're going to need a home, we can do a lot of that virtually. And we need to have those, you know, that kind of mapped out to know when we can do things virtually and when it's really necessary to do things face to face.
Kimberly, We have a question from Patrick Scott. What are some good tools for the virtual appointment setting?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. So, you know, obviously Zoom, we're using Zoom right now, GoToMeeting, Skype. If I don't think you can really strictly say FaceTime, but if those people do have iPhones and both have iPhones, you could do FaceTime. But you don't assume that everybody has an iPhone, because there are more of us out there who are Android users. So, but again, if you're an Android, if they're both Android users, then you can use a video call. Really anything. It doesn't have to be something that you buy, but you need to have your visual aids set up so that whether it's on your website or whether your salesperson has access to it on their hard drive or on a server, so that they can quickly share those visual aids and do that screen sharing while they're having an appointment, just like they would do. Think of the tools you need when you do a face-to-face appointment. Maybe have all of that in one spot on your computer or on your salespeople's computer, so they can quickly access it and do that screen sharing with them. So hopefully that helps you a little bit, Scott. And if you have more questions, feel free to reach out to me.
And I'd like to throw in something there as well, because you know, this is new for so many people because they haven't gone through this whole idea of setting appointments. A lot of builders rely, and a lot of sales agents rely on traffic coming in. It's not necessarily appointments that are set. And we're talking about, you know, whether or not you have an online sales counselor, whoever it is, you really need to start screening people from the very beginning, even if you don't have online sales, the way an online sales counselor would, which is asking those questions, like Kimberly said, time frame, price range, figuring out, and really deciding whether or not an in-person appointment is necessary. And even though we're going to these virtual appointments, setting the expectation up for people, hey, you know, we're just starting these out, we're new at this, don't expect us to be completely, you know, photo ready, professional videography going on here. We're learning alongside you to do this. And so set up an expectation for the customer to create, you know, it's an icebreaker. We're all in this together. Let's do this together. If the technology glitches when we're first starting this out, hang in there with us. Make sure I have your phone number. And it's even that much more important before you set the appointment to make sure you have all their contact information. So if something does go wrong, you can text them and give them instructions on how to get into that tool. So I think, you know, getting yourself set up for success with these virtual appointments. I don't want people to kind of be paralyzed by the fear of, what if I do this wrong? Because guess what? You're probably going to do it wrong the first or second time. You just are. It is what it is. So we don't want to turn off our prospects by having them expect something that we don't necessarily know we can deliver. And by creating a sense of community, and we're all in this together when we're setting these virtual appointments up, is important. And you know, whether you're an online sales counselors are really great at setting that sort of stuff up. But if you're new to this and you're trying to figure this out, you're gonna make a few missteps, and that's okay.
Can I give you a virtual high five
Leah.
for that one? That was
Good one.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Leah, let's stick with you. I have another question, and we touched on this a little bit already. How do you manage prospect behavior for safety when conducting a face-to-face meeting or tour?
So I think that's an interesting one, and we were talking about this beforehand. Kimberly actually has a lot of great ideas. One of my thoughts was, and then I'm going to throw it to Kimberly, is that first off, you need to make sure that your site agents are going to be comfortable leading us a face-to-face tour, because they may have be immune compromised themselves, or have someone in their household who's immune compromised, or have someone who's in a high risk category. So I think it's first deciding the process, and we go back to what I said earlier of what is the process, and see where and when and if you can actually offer those in those face-to-face interactions. And Kimberly is going to get into this a little bit more when she talks about how the laws are rapidly shifting, and even across the country, you can't do it. You just can't do it. So I think that it's really important to create an expectation while you're setting the appointment, and whether whether it is an online sales counselor or someone else that's handling those leads to get the appointment set up, you're actually asking questions and you're giving them a process. So if we can actually do a face-to-face, you're giving them a process of what to expect when they get there, so that they're not touching everything or trying to shake your hand or giving you a hug or whatever it might be. The person setting up the appointment, whether it be an online sales counselor or someone else, is setting those expectations for what that in-person face-to-face meeting is going to look like ahead of time. Go ahead, Kimberly. I know you have some great stuff to put in on this.
Yeah, and that's very true. You know, and I think we have to get better at that expectation setting, because it truly could be life or death, right? So, you know, we've gone from the age of elbow bump, where we went from handshaking to elbow bumps, and now we're even, hey, 6 feet. And there have been some really good memes going around about how people are achieving their social distancing. But tell people, we've sanitized the model. I know they're hearing it over and over. Tell them we're sanitizing the model. Here's what we're doing. Here's how we're doing it. When you get here, the door's going to be locked. We're not just letting anybody in. It's only 2 people at a time. And the reason that we're doing that, so I'm going to come and I'm going to unlock the door, and I'm going to invite you to come on in while backing up to maintain our 6-foot distance. So, I mean, you have to go kind of step by step with this stuff, and let people understand that when they come in, we're going to ask them to put their hands in their pockets, because that will help them, remind them not to touch stuff. You know, I don't know why it is when people come in, they go into the kitchen, they feel the need to open the refrigerator, right? I mean, it's a refrigerator. They all look pretty much the same inside, but everybody feels the need to do this stuff. Turn off bathroom lights, because we're all programmed. Turn off the light. You've heard your father say it for years. So, you know, people are going to touch things. If they put their hands in their pockets, we set that expectation. Let them know, no children right now. We love your kids. We love for the kids to be involved, but right now is an extraordinary time. I think it's okay to say things like that and say, you know, you need to leave the kids at home, because we can't control who's touching what. And that, you know, we're only going to allow the decision makers, so only the immediate decision makers can physically be here. But anybody that you want to support you through this process, whether it's your outside realtor, your mom, your dad, whoever else you want, let's get them on video chat and let's bring them along with you virtually, so that they can be part of the process. Because I always hate having to go back and go through everything for that other person who's going to be supporting them. So get them involved virtually, which is something we should be doing regardless of the times. But now it really is truly life or death. So if you're going to be wearing a mask or you're going to have on gloves, you need to tell people, don't be alarmed. I'm going to have on a mask and I'm going to be wearing gloves, because that's what has been ordered in my state. So California has gone to all masks. If you're out of your home, you need to have a mask on. Other places are recommending it. We saw Dr. Fauci recommend it this morning on several of the shows as he was making the rounds. So just let people know, because it's still a little strange to come in contact with somebody who looks like this. I mean, hazmat still, you know, we're programmed to be scared of those things. So those are things that I think we just need to think through that process, make sure we keep everybody safe, but we can still conduct face-to-face or show tours of our homes, go out and look at home sites, as long as we maintain these safety procedures.
And something Char Spears shared in our Q&A. Carol, you want to go for that?
Go ahead. No, it's awesome. You go ahead and share.
Yeah, she said, just sharing a best practice that we as a builder implemented last week for virtual showing in our model homes. We're using the alarm.com integration system that allows our agents to answer their prospect visits via the doorbell ringing to their phones. The app allows the agent to see the prospect and guide the prospect via phone call with cameras inside the home. Our agents can also disarm the alarms remotely and still conduct the tour virtually. So that's a whole other way that you could do that, which is great.
Yeah,
So,
that's fantastic. And another question is, would you recommend supplying disposable gloves for the home tours? And I think that's probably a great point. Somewhere in the chat earlier, somebody was asking, what's the liability, and how do you know if the doorbells and all the high touch surfaces are really wiped off? And I guess supplying disposable gloves is one way to mitigate that, because you know that they haven't touched anything but those gloves.
yeah,
But gloves are hard to find right now too, so.
I was going to
yeah,
say,
This
I
hasn't
would,
Kim, yeah,
yeah, and we don't want to take away from that personal protection from our first line responders.
right.
Encourage people to bring their own gloves. Carol and I ride horses. We have horse gloves, and those are lightweight enough that we can wear them in the heat, because we live in the South. So that was something I washed my horse gloves, so I can take those. And they're also a lot more comfortable than wearing latex gloves or plastic gloves
Right.
right now. So
Yeah.
you just got to wash them every time. But,
Another
encourage people to bring their own for sure.
Yeah, one more great idea I think was shared by Ariel Langford with RNL Homes in South Texas. They had a meeting about using Google Nest Hub throughout the home to provide prospective buyers more of a tour versus them walking through the home with no guidance. Then somebody else chimed in and said, great idea on Google Hub. You could have testimonials included, or buyer telling their story in specific rooms.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, great ideas. You all
Yeah.
keep them coming. We love them.
yeah, yeah. It's great
Yes,
to have this
wonderful.
interaction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Leah, the realtors are part of this process, right? And I know you want to talk to the group about ensuring that we continue to keep them part of the process. Do you want to elaborate?
Sure, and I'll definitely talk, and I know the others can chime in as well, that, I mean, as far as realtors go, they are very much a part of our process. And right now, with inventory probably being a lot lower for resales, we need to remind them, this is the right time to remind them that we have inventory homes and that we have homes that they can show their buyers, and really to help realtors to teach them a process and demystify the whole new home sales process for realtors so they can do it for their buyers. Because someone was telling me about a survey out there. It was actually Ron Williams with Hoodle was telling me about an NAR survey where about 10% of people buy new homes versus used homes. Yet when they asked the survey question, 60% of people would like to buy new homes, but they're actually afraid of the process. So for us to really help realtors understand the process, reach out our hands and be partners with them in this difficult time, and show them how their buyers can make this an easy process, we're all going to benefit from that. And if you have an online sales counselor, I've always made this a part of their prospecting, where they help manage those realtor relations and create VIP realtor programs so that they can help the agents out there understand that they're there to help. And there's a whole process we go through with that. So, and anybody else want to chime in on the whole realtor relationship that we can continue to grow during this time?
Carol, you want to go ahead?
I'm just gonna say keep them informed. Send them emails, send them links to video tours. Make sure that they know where your virtual tours are. Treat them a lot like you would treat your prospects. And I think we're going to talk about that next. So I'll save that for the next slide.
Okay.
So, and I run I'm on the opposite side usually of this one, because I do run this, a preferred builder program for a very large brokerage here in the Tampa Bay market as another arm of my business. And realtors are always telling me, how they feel left out of the process. And that's one of the reasons they feel like, the average realtor does 12 transactions a year, which is up, by the way, from 6 a few years ago. So that's great. The average realtor has doubled their business, but think about that. That's one sale a month, and that's half a transaction. So that's a little bit terrifying for their income when they have to hand off and trust you as the builder completely. So as Leah said, a very important word, she said, partner with them. So encourage them. Yes, here's how we're going to handle this. And in fact, it's going to be so much easier for you to be part of the process because we're going to bring you virtually along every step of the way. So, you know, you include them. As soon as that person gets there, go ahead and get them on. And it's best if you can be the one calling them and not relying on the prospect to get a hold of them. It's best if you can go ahead and get your buyers and your prospects pre-registered. And again, have that broker registration form that I'm so fond of sharing with people, that you get the brokers to understand what their role is in this, and this is what you're going to do for them and what they're going to do for you, and that they are going to have to share their prospects information. And again, you bring them along and you partner with them every step of the way, because we don't want them on the outside looking in and peering through the glass, you know, and feeling completely left out of this process. It's scary enough in normal times for them to work with us. Let's not make this a scary time. Let's make it a time to build those relationships.
Thanks, Kimberly. Thanks, ladies. So we are starting to get toward the end of this call, so I want to make sure we have enough time to get through the rest of the slides. At this point, it would be a mortgage update. Here's what I'm going to say to you. It's changing fast, really fast. If you've listened to the news this morning, you'll understand that the financial crisis that we had in '08 is extraordinarily different than what we're dealing with today in the mortgage banking world and in the finance world. This came, you know, in '08, it came over time. This has hit us square in the face, and we're all doing everything we can to continue to keep business moving forward. If I were to tell you something right now, by the time we hung up this call, it would probably have changed. So I'm going to not share a lot of information, but I'm going to say to you, if you have questions regarding mortgage, feel free to shoot me an email. I will attempt to get back to all of you. I can tell you that those of us at Wells Fargo have literally been working around the clock, not sleeping. And I shared with Leah earlier, I feel like I'm in college. Yesterday, my diet consisted of coffee, Swedish fish, and I just did nothing else but work for 24 straight hours. So if you need me, email me if you have questions. I'll try to assist you. But I think let's stay focused on what we're talking about here today, and that's helping you focus on keeping business moving forward. So rather than go to all three of you, let's do the same thing we did last time. One of you grabbed this question from me. Managing the messaging for your existing pipeline of customers. How often? What's the best way? Should it be separate from external messaging?
I'd love to jump in and grab this one because it's something I've worked a lot with, actually with this week with Peachtree Residential here in Atlanta, you know, managing those pre-sale clients who are in the pipeline and then managing those hot leads. So we crafted an email for them that talks about historically low rates, and it talks about rate lock assistance, low inventory of homes, how there's construction to perm loans available, they can tour the homes by themselves, and that home building is considered an essential building activity. So although we are a little bit behind in the South because of all the rain, we are still chugging along trying to meet deadlines and adjust those deadlines as necessary. And then talking about how their homes are available by appointment only. And you know, to set that appointment, and then all the information on the website, and then of course talking a little bit about the preventative measures they're taking to keep everybody safe. But I think those same messages can be shared, you know, via email, via phone call, via text. You know, you've got to keep those prospects that are hot prospects, and especially if they're in the pre-sale process, informed. Leah, do you want to add to this one?
Yeah, I think when you're dealing with cultivating some of your aged leads in your database and sending out messaging, it's really important to keep things upbeat. And I know we talked about this a little bit last week, but some ideas are maybe sending out some fun quizzes or surveys that can help create some interaction and get some responses. Of course, picking up the phone is key, and video emailing, we've talked about this. Just the other day, I was talking with one of my online sales counselors, and I said, you need to find ways to reach out and keep it light and fun. This is where you touch the people you've already communicated with as far as prospects go, and not try to get those non-responsive people to respond to you. But I said, you know, try that you know, that Facebook game, your current mood plus a food you just ate. I said, try sending out a video like that, but keep your mood upbeat, you know, set a tone, set a positive tone for that. And pick something funny, like an introspective banana or thoughtful Swedish fish or congenial blueberry muffin or something like that. And then see if they will respond to you, because this is not only a way to try to get a response, but also to take the temperature of your prospects that are out there and really get a feel for how they're feeling, without saying, how are you feeling right now? You know, so try things like that. Try some fun messaging, not, oh my God, this COVID thing, it's terrible. What's your quarantine name? But just something fun, you know? So
Yeah.
try that sort of thing.
So I would
So
just like to
Kimberly,
finish that up and just say that, you know, there is no one size fits all. So do remember that, you know, I think it's important for us to be having the round robin calls with our team in the morning and get everybody started off on the right foot. Have the messaging that's going out to your suppliers be different than that messaging that's going out to your customers. But again, still upbeat, still positive, letting them know how important they are to the process. And as much as you can do of that, that you can do over video so you can see people's faces, I think that's the best thing you can do. So just again, remember, there is no one size fits all. There should be internal messaging that also needs to be positive, as well as your external messaging, and include, you know, separate but include realtors, customers, prospects, suppliers, trade partners, you know, each separate group, and bring people together as much as you can that way.
Kimberly, there is a question from Lori Asaro in the chat room, and it says, and I know we were supposed to be shifting to our next slide, which talks about the future, but I think this group really is asking a lot of great questions about the now. So how might we handle all the what-if scenarios that the buyers in escrow set to close on their home in the next few months are posing to us?
Well, good. Lori is always so thoughtful, so thank you, Lori. So you know, the thing is, you can't manage every single scenario right now. It's changing too fast. So I think Leah earlier on one of our slides talked about, you know, you've got to set the expectation. Stuff is going to happen. Stuff is changing. Customers, we need you to be with us on this. We need you to be patient and understanding. You know, we always need them to be patient and understanding. Stuff always happens as we go toward closing. Things do shift around, but now more than ever. And if something does change, talk to them. We get so caught up, oh, this is bad news. No, nothing is bad news. Nothing is good news. It's just news. It's just news. It's information. We need to share it. Stop assigning whether things are bad or good, because you don't always know what the ramifications of all of it are. So share information. Don't get all caught up in your headspace of not being able to say, oh, great, now we've had a shift here. We're not going to be able to get the light fixtures in, so we can't close for another week. Or, oh, we've had a mortgage change, or the title company has a new rule, and now we have to figure out how to do this. It just is what it is. And the more information you share with people, the calmer they're going to be. We saw the stock market go crazy because nobody knew what was happening, and they were craving to know, okay, well, now what's going to happen? Well, now the stock market, as you see, it's doing this instead of this and this and up and down, because now there is a plan. It may not be a perfect plan, but now there's a plan, and there are people attacking it, and people feel confident that we're just going to do the best we can through this. You know, that's really all we can expect. So good question. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So ladies, I don't know what you want to do here. I do have a hard stop at the top of the hour. Since there's been so much conversation around the now, do you want to just give some final thoughts, and maybe we save the future for next week's call? It's up to you. You tell me what you want to do.
We can sum this slide up pretty similarly to I think we've been sharing a lot of this all along. Take a pause. I mean, the universe gave you a pause. I mean, they slapped us in the face with it. So, you know, take that pause, figure out what's working, and now what's maybe even more efficient. Stop panicking ourselves, and use this time to really continue to map that customer experience process. and think about what can I take from this and apply it to my future. So, you know, we do want to get messaging that's out that's about, okay, this is what's happening now, but think about the process itself as you go forward. So what could the shift in that messaging be as we come out of it, and then as we are out of it? So I think that's really the message that we wanted to convey here. And, you know, if anybody needs some help mapping out their customer experience process, you got any of us could help you out with that and help you with making sure that you're looking at it every step of the way.
And we wanted to also address something about like scalability on some of these suggestions that we put out there, because I know, of course, my expertise is online sales counselors, and not every builder out there has an online sales counselor. And the question becomes, do they need to add it? When do you have that? And when do you set that foundation? And in all honesty, if you're selling 40, 50 or more homes, 100 homes, oh my gosh, with 100 homes, this is the time really to be setting up that foundation of online, of really putting together how you're going to create this funnel where all your leads come into it and then are filtered out to your agents. If you're only selling about 10 or 15 homes a year, online sales may never really be something where you have a dedicated person doing it, but there's still a way to figure out how you can take some of these tips and how you can implement them and have one person in your company that really is doing some of these things. And there's definite do's and don'ts. Like right now, if you don't have an online sales counselor and you want to have one person that's helping to direct these virtual tours and all of that sort of stuff, that's great. You can utilize possibly a sales agent, but just know that that may not be a long-term fix. Kimberly used the word Band-Aid earlier, and I could do a whole webinar on Band-Aids people try to put on online sales programs because they know they need them, but they don't want to set them in place. But let's just say that right now, if you are going to try to slap a Band-Aid on it, you need to do it in a very purposeful way so that you can pick it up and run with it later. And make that, because we really need these virtual processes in place now and moving forward. And many people have had them for years. I mean, I've been doing it for 14 years. So it's not new, even though it seems new. And for builders who have 25 homes a year that they're building and they want to get up to 50, it is the time to start ramping something like that up. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. For scalability and working with your pipeline and what you're doing now versus how you can carry that into your future.
Carol, any final thoughts from you?
I mean, I guess the same thing on scalability. I could chime in. It doesn't matter how big or small you are, you need to have a website. I'm often amazed at how many people don't have websites today in 2020. So this is a great time to pause and build a new one or update the one you have. And if you don't have one, get one. And any of us can help make some referrals on that as well. But, you know, use this time to ramp up and really get your core basics, which are your website, your content, and your branding in place, because you're going to need that as we come out of this mess. I will also say we have a number of other questions. If we missed your question, then we will respond to you via email after the webinar today.
Any questions that we want to take right now?
There is a good one that I'd love to see if you're game to answer, Kimberly. And this one's from Lori Asaro is how I'd pronounce that. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. We're experiencing a bit of remorse with an underlying fear of price drops when this is all over. I hate to say that, but buyers are expressing it.
Well, so
well, sigh.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. That it's a bit terrifying for all of us, Lori. So yes, I think that from what I'm seeing, and I got a fabulous email from the Cleveland research team this morning right before we went on the call. Even our two biggest builders, so Lennar and DR Horton, are on opposite sides of the fence on this one. DR is marching forward. They've just altered their projections and said, okay, we're going to sell less homes, but we're still going to sell, and we're not going to see these price drops. Whereas Lennar is expecting downward pricing pressure, and they are expecting. So, you know, and that's public information, so I'm not sharing anything out of turn there, but everybody's kind of like, what's going to happen with the pricing? What's going to happen with the pricing? The bottom line is we don't know, because we're in the bottom of the curve. The only way we're going to know is as we start to come out of the bottom of the curve here, what does it look like and how fast do we come out of it? Because think about this, there could be a whiplash effect with all of a sudden we start releasing people back out into the world and start experiencing some new normalcy, and people are all this pent up demand for those who made it through. There's like, okay, I got to go and I got to go now. We can actually see upward price pressure. So there is some discussion out there amongst those who know what's going on for upward price pressure as we come out of it. I don't think anybody's predicting that while we're in it. So yeah, nobody has a crystal ball. I wish I did, but very good question. Any others?
I saw one earlier, and I don't know if Eric is still on this, but I saw one asking about, and I'm going to paraphrase it because I can't find it in the feed now, but it was about all the automated VR, you know, the bots, the chat bots and things like that, and whether those are a good way to deal with this. And I think, you know, just as anything else, you want to make sure you're setting it up correctly. You don't want to rush in and say, oh my God, I need to have this, because chatbots themselves are complex beings and they need to be set up correctly so that they can direct people in the right direction. They can answer the questions correctly, and sometimes you get caught up in a loop. So I would say that they are a possibility, and they're definitely something that's strong. I've seen strong numbers for them, and it's just making sure that you're doing it in a methodical way, and that you have someone that once that chatbot gets kicked over to a live person, you have a live person that can then follow on with that. It's the same with live chat. If you're going to put live chat on your website, you need to have someone that's there to man that live chat. It just is. So I just wanted to answer that one because it didn't fall into any of our categories we talked about.
Yeah, you know, that's actually interesting. You make an interesting point, Leah. You know, if you email a builder, you know, you expect to get an answer back, but it's still something that we as an industry fail terribly at: responding to emails, working them through a system, responding to social media. You know, if a customer reaches out to us, we need to have the courtesy of responding. And I think that that's an area we can make great strides in during this. You know, we're not out and about. We're all stuck right here by our computers. So no, why not take this time to put those, you know, put all of that in place and have a method of working through it that will work after we come out of the downturn too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I know Kelly has to hop off here. Hopefully we've answered all the questions that were in the chat. It was a lively chat stream, so that was great, and some great ideas within that. So, you know, I think this is wonderful, and we'll get your feedback and find out more about what you want to hear about and see if if it's worth us. We will continue these as long as you all want us to. So
our contact information is all on here, and fingers crossed, hopefully the recording goes well today.
I can see it.
If it does, then I will definitely get the recording out to everybody as soon as it processes through. It takes it a little time to process. So thank you.
Yeah.
Kelly,
And
final thoughts? Oh, yeah. Sorry, Carol.
I was just going to say, and a shout out to Kevin Wetzel. I always want to say, actually it's Weitzel, sorry. I want to say it's Weitzel, or Wetzel rhymes with pretzel, and it's not, it's Weitzel's. Kevin from Outhouse, thank you for helping us with Zoom technology.
Yes, thank you.
Like I said, we're all learning, you know. I mean, some of us have used Zoom for years for one-on-one or small group meetings with our clients, but when it comes to actually hosting a webinar, we're like, we're just as new as you all are. So
thanks, everybody. Kelly?
Yeah. Be well, everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you all. Bye-bye.